So I've been wanting to do this video for weeks, and this video is for anyone that has children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, your own kids, whatever it is. I started thinking about this because I have nieces and nephews that are about to go into high school or in high school or just starting college or just graduating, and they all mean the world to me. And I think this topic is critical to kind of talk about given the changes that are happening in our world. And I don't want this to be a scare video. I'm not trying to create any fear, uncertainty, and doubt in people. What I really want is hopefully to use this as a wake up call and a motivation for you to have some really serious conversations with your kids and hopefully help them charter a path forward that allows them to be as prosperous as possible for as long as possible as our world continues to evolve and change. Now, the changes I'm talking about are specifically related to AI and its impact on ultimately our career choices and what careers will be available and which will be the most prosperous and secure as the world moves on. So, I want to start with a little bit of context just so you understand that the problem is here now. It's not something that's coming or it's 5 years away or 10 years away or not in my lifetime. If you're a parent, grandparent, niece, uncle or aunt, or anybody that cares about someone who's coming up through the schools and colleges and starting out in their career, the problem is here for you today. Now, this week, about a day ago, it's Halloween today. Happy Halloween, everybody. OpenAI, their CEO and their chief scientist, did what I thought was an amazingly unique thing in the tech industry, which is they did a very open YouTube video on here's what we are, here's where we're going, here's what the future holds. And I'm not going to go through that entire video. I'm happy to do a review of it if people feel that's valuable. But short of it is they believe that by September of 2026, we will start seeing what we would consider intern level research AI. And then by 2028, 2 years later, we will see fully autonomous research agent AI. Now, I don't want the word research to throw you because a lot of people are going to say, well, research, I don't do research, that doesn't impact me. The ability to do research on your own, to think of how there's a problem set and you want to solve that problem or there's some kind of challenge, the thinking that goes into that is very advanced, right? It's why we don't have a lot of people who become research scientists because it's a very specialized, highly intellectual field, and it requires a lot of autonomy and the ability to speculate and do things. The reason this is important to you is because that ability of intelligence translates to other jobs and impacts other jobs. And so if you can do research at a very senior level, then you're able to do other jobs that don't require as much intellectual capability, and that's just reality of life. Now, so that's kind of the roadmap, right? September of 2026, we're going to start seeing intern level research, which is very powerful, and by 2028, fully autonomous. The ability for AI to do its own thing, think on its own, spin off tasks on its own, and kind of evolve from there. So, again, this is really kind of a wake-up call as to where we're going and what OpenAI and other AI organizations are doing. Now, let's talk about the here and now. What is happening with jobs in terms of where we're going and what we're seeing? So Amazon just announced that they're probably going to reduce about 14,000 corporate roles are going to be eliminated in the coming months. And there is a statement by their CEO that says that, they look to actually replace a lot of jobs due to the transformational nature of AI. Accenture has laid off, I believe now it's 11,000 jobs, somewhere between 9 and 11,000. And the CEO has said that they will exit employees who can't be retrained for the AI era work world, right? So that's a huge impact. I would tell you if you're thinking of being a consultant or are a consultant, look elsewhere. Salesforce, a very large company, has already reduced their support staff from 9,000 people to 5,000 after deploying AI agents to take over much of the work. Today, their CEO is saying about 50% of interactions are now handled by AI. when you contact Salesforce. Autodesk has cut their workforce by 9%. Klarna, which is a financial technical company, has reduced their staff um, from 5,000 to 3,800 because of AI. And so this isn't going to stop, right? Capitalism's job is to optimize. So we're going to see continued optimization. And it's a scary time, right? If you have a child who their dream is to be an engineer, or they're thinking of going into marketing, or they're thinking of becoming a lawyer, a doctor, or they're going into some area of healthcare that requires advanced degrees. Pretty much anywhere in the landscape right now, we're seeing that AI is going to have implications on those career choices, right? I would not be going into marketing right now if I was starting out my career. I would not be going into software engineering. I would not become a network administrator. I would be staying away from the technical IT worlds, including coding and developing software. We're seeing those jobs impacted at amazing rates. Microsoft has already done layoffs. I thought it was in the thousands, and their CEO has said that he does believe AI will transform the landscape of Microsoft and their reliance on human engineers. So as we see this transformation, we need to start thinking about what are the conversations we have with our children? How do we guide them, right? And so the first part of that conversation is you need to really be very clear with them that the choices they're making right now in terms of careers may not be there by the time they get out of high school or college, or even if they're in college and graduating or have graduated, they may need to understand that their lifelong dream and their lifelong career plans are probably going to need to be very flexible. So you have to ensure your kids are highly flexible. They can roll with the punches. They have to have very high degrees of resilience. Um, so that's something that is hard to do once a child's in school, in college, or post-college, because they probably ingrained their response to external stimuli, and it's hard to get them. But resilience is huge, and flexibility. So who survives, right? So let's say you have somebody who says, well, I've always wanted to be a software engineer, and that's all I'm going to ever to be. Um, I think in the 10% rule, and this is something that I've created, and that, my belief is that the 10% of the best of any industry will be the ones that survive for the next decade, right? So if you have the ability to do whatever job you want, even marketing or software engineering or medicine or whatever it is, and you are capable of being in that top 10% of people across, across the entire globe, then you probably will be fine, right? That's the standard that will be required, because we're going to see a shift in how companies are organized. I'm having conversations now. My company, Illuminous Labs, we're very vested in AI. We're helping companies employ AI to transform their workforces and their environments. And I can tell you that we're seeing a shift in work models, right? What we're seeing is the kind of best of breed, it doesn't matter about title or role, are now being taught to oversee AI agents, right? So instead of having to oversee 10 employees, you now oversee 10 AI agents, and you control those 10 AI agents. And yeah, sadly, those 10 employees now are displaced or replaced or whatever it may be. So it's not a good place to be. So when we're talking to our kids, we've got to either motivate them to be in that top 10%. Unfortunately, it's not a clear answer, right? Another thing I think is really important is for kids and all people of all ages, but for people in high school and colleges to become very AI aware and learn how to use AI tools, right? Learning how to use the tools will take you much further right now than anything else. Right? If you still want to be in marketing, you've got to learn how to do AI-based marketing. If you're going to be in software engineering, you need to understand how to do AI software engineering. I'm not saying use AI, but how do you use the AI tools to write code? So again, I hope this is a wake-up call. I have a lot more thoughts on this. I'm limited in the amount of time I can post a video on these forums, that I don't want this to turn into an hour-long dissertation on career paths. I'm happy to cover more in this topic. I've thought about doing maybe a workshop for teenagers to college kids on surviving in an AI-driven world. Thinking of doing some videos on capitalism and AI and how that gets impacted. I'll give you an example how radically things are changing. Right, I do a lot of work working with C-suites and boards on figuring out AI strategy, and I just had a hospital come to me and ask me if we could build a tool that allows them to really analyze what jobs within the hospital will be impacted by AI. And so we're building that tool, right? You can go in and you can put in a job and you can figure out like what, based on what we know right now about the roadmaps, like with OpenAI and others, of where AI is going, how long, what's the viability of that job? Is it a year, 3 years, 5 years? I can tell you no job that we've analyzed in a hospital will not be impacted by AI within the next without further than 5 years out, right? So if you work in a hospital, I can tell you very assuredly, there's a chance your job will be impacted within the next 5 years. That doesn't mean it'll be eliminated, just means it'll be impacted. So where does that leave us as humans? Not really in a good place, right? We got to stop pretending everybody's going to get a participation trophy. Not everybody is. Not everybody that graduates high school, college is going to end up getting the careers. And this has maybe always been kind of true, but I think now more than ever, if we're looking at just that top 10% getting gainful employment and others having to figure out another way, that's a hard place to be. But none of this works without having conversation and taking steps to plan right now. And so I'm happy to help. Feel free to reach out. Again, I'm happy to do longer form videos if that's going to be helpful, but I wanted to kind of test this subject, put it out there. I will tell you, again, I'm not trying to be fear-mongering, or everything I'm telling you is either based on direct observation or the evidence that we're seeing in the markets and what we're seeing through layoffs and reorganizations of very large companies. And also having people reach out to me that say, hey, I'm a software engineer, I'm this, I'm that, and I can't get a job. I'm a product manager, I'm a program manager, and I'm really having a hard time. And just 3 years ago, it was I could pick where I wanted to work, and today I can't do that anymore. So hope this was helpful, get you thinking, and look forward to people's comments and feedbacks. If you want to hear more on this topic, let me know. Otherwise, hope you have a great weekend. I know this is not the best thing to hear on a Friday, but please take steps to talk to your kids and help them plan and think through where things are going and get educated on what's happening with AI. Take care.